CCU Orlando presents The Authentic Spiritual Journey, a weekly show featuring real and practical spiritual conversations from diverse perspectives here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Today, Episode 2, Cleaning Out Your Closets. And now, your host, Reverend Cynthia Alice Anderson, and co-host, Frederick Cotto Lewis.
All right, welcome everyone. Welcome back to Show 2 on Authentic Spiritual Journey, our podcast that's being broadcast from our Experience of the Soul channel. I'm here today to bring you this show. My name's Cynthia Alice, and I'm joined by
Frederick Cotto Lewis.
And my producer is
Dave Croft. Hello.
Yeah, so we're in Dave's studio today, having a great time, and happy to bring this second show to you. And our title today is Cleaning Out Your Closets. Cleaning out your closets. So this ought to be a real interesting one, as we're going to get to a lot of different aspects of what that means, both physically and spiritually, but we are even going to also include our financial closets. So I'm glad you're joining us today. It's going to be a great discussion.
And just to continue on that, is truly definitely going to be a great discussion, because we always want to think about, for me, it brings up those childhood memories of when my mother and would always tell me to clean out my closet. Oh, God, I hated that. Didn't we all?
Yes. Well, and part of this show is being authentic. In each show, you're probably going to hear aspects of our childhoods, because what we believe is that they help make and mold who we are today. And there'll be reflection moments, there'll be growth moments, there'll be things that we share. You might be surprised we're willing to share, but we always want to come to you real, vulnerable, and brave, which is exactly what we talked about on our very first show. So we feel strongly that people can grow spiritually as they hear the truth, as someone experienced it. So we do welcome you to our show today, Cleaning Out Your Closets.
Thank you, Alice. I just want to say right now, I think when we're talking about our cleaning out closets, when we go to the physical aspect of it, it's about removing those things that we no longer need or no longer serving us, or just old and been sitting in there for a while. It's like someone told me, they said, anything that you've had in your closet, clothes that you have not worn in a year or so, you don't need it anymore.
I know. Who told you that?
I don't know. Someone really kind of close to me. And I'm like, who told you my closet was like that? You know what I mean?
Everybody has it.
That right. But I always want to feel special and think that it was specifically me. I'm just like everybody else. I want to feel like, oh, it was only me. But
right.
I know everyone has that, but I just don't want to point out nobody else's stuff.
Right. Well,
so I keep it on me.
Right. So, that's a great introduction to the physical. And then the financial, this is about looking at where our dollars are going. How conscious are we about our money? What's happening? How is it spent? How is it saved? How is it tithed? And what are we holding on to? So there's a financial aspect. And then, of course, there is an emotional and spiritual aspect that we're going to go into in depth. But before we get into the meat of this topic, we really want to back up a little bit and tell you how we came up with this, title and why we think it matters. And it matters very much on the spiritual journey, I believe, because when we hold on to things that we don't need, we are stagnating the energetic flow that wants to move in and through our lives. So many months ago, I was writing a book called 7 Spiritual Laws of Release. And in my meditation time, I received a name of a law that I'd never heard of. And the name of that law was the law of minimization. The law of minimization. And at the urging of my partner, I looked it up on the internet to see if such a law existed. And what I found out was that not the law of minimization, but something very close called the law of minimum, which is a law from agricultural science from the early 1800s, like 1840 area. And there was a scientist whose last name was Liebig. And it's called now Liebig's Law, which basically states growth is controlled by the scarcest resource, or another way of saying that is the limiting factor. right? So this may sound a little heady. Stay with me, because really all it means is you won't get growth if you have everything but what the plant needs.
Yes.
So if you have for instance, if you have a rose bush, which I have several at home that I love tending to, a family rose and an old rose that was at the home we purchased, I love tending to those roses. But if they have sun and they have fertilizer but no water, the rose will never grow. If they're not cared for, the rose will never grow. So we have to think about what is needed for this particular plant or this species to grow. So if we have everything but what's needed, the plant will die. And what we know is that with all the other nutrients and resources, it can actually inhibit growth if there is too much of it.
Mm-hmm.
So then we want to take that law and relate it to the spiritual life. So
I like that.
I basically
I'm sorry.
renamed the law for us today. I took the liberty, and somebody should put that on Wikipedia or something, that the law of minimization is, in fact, this law of minimum as related to our physical lives.
I like that. But then when you touch on the topic of that, things need to be cut back, the scarcest, and how you have to remove some of the things, or there got to be like equal amounts of it. That reminded me when, like in a rose bush, how you have to trim back the leaves and all of the extra stuff so that the nutrients can definitely go to the bud.
Right.
And that right there is the law. You're saying
Right.
the scarcest. So that's you're cutting back the leaves and all of that that is taking up the nutrients, but not really necessary.
Right. So, that's the way a rose grows naturally, is they, left to its own devices, a rose grows lots of leaves, but it rarely blooms because all the energy is going out to all these other leaves.
Mhm.
That's where all the nutrients are going. So when you trim them back,
Exactly.
you're absolutely right.
Then
You
you're
trim them back, it like releases this enormous energy and power and resource to go towards the creating of the bud rather than the leaves. So that's what we want to do to our lives as well. We want to say, what are these outer things? What are these things that we're holding physically in our homes? What are these things we're holding financially?
I
What are
like
the
that.
things we are holding emotionally? And many of these things are physical. They're not even they're not only on the emotional level.
Only
These are
on the
physical things
Yes.
that can be moved, changed, shifted to help us grow and bloom like the rose. That's the whole idea.
Which, when those things are not moved, kind of like me, it's like when when my closet is cluttered up and all of that physical stuff, even in the house, is all cluttered up, it deals with my energy as well as my mental state.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. It makes me feel like, okay, Fred, your life can be a little more better, because when I look around and my life and things are cluttered around me, it makes me feel like, okay, this is your life.
Right. Well, especially when you're talking about cleaning out the closets. Who here listening does not have things in their closet?
A closet.
Okay, everybody has a closet, number
A
one.
closet.
Right? So, and then in the closet are things you cannot wear because you're bigger than the clothes. Amen,
Preach.
everyone?
Or smaller than the clothes.
Okay, well, there's both. And so what happens is when we get up in the morning and we look at our closet, we're creating all this emotional angst. We're holding on to things that can't fit us because they're too small. And we might even look at them and go, oh, I can't wear that. And then we think things like, I can't believe I was ever that small. I could never
Right.
fit into that now.
And maybe one day I'll get back to
And
that
maybe one
size.
day, I'm going to just live in a dream world that even though I'm doing nothing different, that I'm going to fit in that at some point.
Exactly.
Then we look at the clothes that are big and say, oh my God, I can't
believe
believe I was ever
ever-
that big. And then we squeeze into the one that's in between.
Right.
And then we feel so as we walk out, for our day.
You gotta like.
And so this causes, believe it or not, a lot of emotional energy that's not
Yes,
needed.
That's not needed.
And here's for me, one of the most powerful things about this law is as we release what we no longer need, somebody else will have it that can use it
Exactly.
and needs it. So it frees up energy for us. It helps somebody else. It's absolutely
It
the
opens
law.
up another energy for someone else
Yes.
to enjoy it and to move forward. And that's the part that I like. So that law is definitely, it not only works in your life, and I go back to the rose bush again, because once you trim back the rose bush and it has all the proper nutrients and the water and the fertilizer and everything and the sunlight and all that working together, then those who are observing it can enjoy the energy and the beauty of it.
Yes.
That's what we want our lives to be.
Yes.
And that's what happens as
Right.
as we clean these closets out financially, physically, and mentally.
Yes, yes, exactly, exactly. So yes, from the physical level, we're starting with cleaning your closets because we all have one. We all have shoes we don't wear. We all have clothes we don't wear.
Exactly.
So that's a really easy physical way to think about it. But also think about all the physical areas of your life, the parts of your house, your office, your car. In my case, my
God.
truck, which needs
You
a little
talking-
work right now.
You talking about me?
Your car looked great.
Yeah, I hid everything in the trunk.
Oh. Well, so all of these things hold energy. Everything in your life right now, everything you have on, everything in your room, where we are right now, the microphones, the chairs, the television, the recording equipment, everything is based in energy. Everything we
Everything.
are is based in
Everything.
energy. In other words, we're made up of the same stuff. Einstein
Everything.
taught us that.
That's right.
Right? E equals MC squared. Einstein taught us that.
Yes.
So with that idea, then we think, okay, how do we know what's holding what energy that we don't need? Well, it's important to be clear about what our purpose is, and this will be a whole nother show because it's hard to differentiate what you need and what you don't need.
Exactly.
Because so many of us are confused about what we're supposed to be doing right now in life. So we have all this stuff around us. Because we're not sure what our next steps are. And maybe I'll need this and maybe I'll need that. But the clearer we become about our purpose, like the rose knows to grow and make a rosebud,
Exactly.
when everything is removed, the rose can bloom.
Yes.
So for us, looking at our physical world, like thinking about our homes, what's just sitting around that we don't use, that we don't, and we haven't used in a very long time?
That's exactly what I was going to touch on.
Go for it.
I'm glad that you said
Go
that,
for it,
because
yeah.
like I said before, the things that, like, for me, the things that if I have not worn something, this is something I'm definitely working on, because I am going to clean out my closet this week just because of this podcast. I'm so serious. I've already discussed it with my partner, and we're on.
Yeah,
And we're going to
good,
have
good.
a garage sale to try to make some more money, to bring some more energy, because I know that even money has energy.
Oh, everything.
But anything that I have not worn, like from a year ago or more,
Yes,
has to go.
that's my rule. If I haven't worn it in a year, unless it's for a special occasion that
Has to
I
go.
know I absolutely will need it, then it has to go.
Has
Yeah.
to go. And I think this is the important part, is to start listening.
Yeah.
Whoa. Listening to the things.
Say it again. Say it again about listening.
Listening to the things, listening to the material things, and we're not saying that they're going to actually speak to you, but you can feel the
Yes.
energy.
Yes.
You
yes.
know?
Yes. Yes.
So what do you do with we believe me, I have a giant collection of clothes, larger clothes, smaller.
Bless you, my dear.
my
Bless
fat
you.
clothes, my skinny
You're
clothes,
normal.
and I walk in and wow, that's a little moment of depression that I didn't need in the morning, but
Yeah, but
yay,
here we
I'm
are.
glad, and yet I don't do anything about it. But I also have a ton of things in my closet that are sentimental.
Sure.
Like and I have multiples of the same T-shirt from my teaching time in Memphis, and
Cool.
and they're great. They occupy a giant corner of my closet. I mean, how do you work through that? The idea of like there's something attached to this other than I cannot physically
Right.
wear it.
That's a good question.
It is a good
Oh
question.
my God.
No, it is a good question. And as much as we do talk about release, there's certainly things that are
Whole
important
sentimental value.
and sentimental. And so, of course, those have value. I think the thing to be conscious about and really aware of is, are they holding good, positive memories? And is that important to you? Then absolutely keep them. But if it's holding energy that's not positive, that's not bringing good into your life, then we want to release it. Now, the thing to consider, though, sentimental can mean I'm in the past. Okay.
Oh,
So-
I'm just gonna look somewhere else.
Yeah, right,
just
right,
turn.
right.
Yeah, just
I was
turn
going to say,
your
give
head.
me one. I think all your Memphis shirts are cool. I
Okay.
could be the answer to your
See?
problem.
Here you go.
I love t-shirts.
Passing it on.
Pass it on, baby.
This is what we're talking about right there. Passing it on, not holding on to the past. I know it's sentimental and it has value, but you have to. All you have to do is,
Oh.
if you're living in the past, then you're not moving into your future or into the present, which is even more.
Right.
Important.
So there are gifts that want to come forth in the present moment, right? And so if we are stuck in the past, you're absolutely right. We can't get to come
can't.
into term with reality of the
With
present.
reality of the present.
So and there are a lot of wonderful things that you can do with old things. As a matter of fact, I've heard recently about say if one of your parents have passed and you have old clothing and you don't want to get rid of it. Well, one of the things you can do is have a gifted quilt maker make that into a quilt.
Ooh, that's
You
so
know?
funny that you came up with that, because right when you were saying that, I was thinking, well, with some of the t-shirts, you can either make like a pillowcase.
You could make a
or-
pillowcase.
We
Yeah.
have for Shannon's grandfather. They made like one of his favorite shirts into a teddy bear.
See?
Oh yes,
This
I've
is
had
the
that
thing.
also. I
So-
have that.
Yep.
So you see, even in doing that, I'm thankful for you guys both saying that, because even in doing that, you're changing the energy
That's what I was gonna
in the
say.
item.
You're transforming the energy.
Yes.
We did that. My mom, who's 90 now, almost 91, she was a really big athlete and she ran races all the time. And we had all these running shirts and none of us wanted to get rid of them. And so we made a quilt of her favorite, her top
Yay.
30, her
top 30. Wow.
running shirts. And so it's a really beautiful memory to that aspect of her life. And then we kind of, share that quilt and pass it around. And
I like that.
and it really honors that
Yes.
portion,
Yes.
but it doesn't keep us looking like we're trying to go backwards.
Right.
Yes.
And not to mention just the physical aspect of
Yeah.
all of those clothes taking up space in someone's garage or someone's
Yes,
closet.
yes.
And that's a real challenge, when
It
you
is.
have a parent or a grandparent that passes, because
Mm-hmm.
moving on, obviously that has to happen, but you have to do something with it. And if you just you take it to Goodwill, that's one thing. If you put it out to the curb, it's just you feel like I'm
Yeah.
putting them out to the curb.
Yes, yes.
But I think
Yes.
it's repurposing without
Yes.
getting it out of your life.
Well, and I think there's a lot of dignity in
That's
that
important.
for us and for them, because it's really honoring that part of our lives. Like I think back to some aspects of my life. There's a couple of things I have from childhood that are really,
Mm-hmm.
really special to me. I'll probably, maybe if my son has a child, I'll pass it on.
Okay.
But that's really special, and there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that.
And it really honors my past, and it also, in this case, the two items I'm thinking of, it really keeps me humble,
But what
right?
I-
To
what I-
remember where I'm from. Yeah.
But then for me, I love all of that, and it's so correct and true. Now, the thing we have to continue to think about is that we want to definitely continue to move the energy.
Yes. Continue to move the energy.
Continue to move the energy, and allowing new
Yes.
experiences
Yes.
and new moments of
Right.
creating memories. to
Yeah, I know
come.
for me and all those Memphis,
Yeah, the
shirts,
shirts,
those come from a time, and getting out of Memphis was, not the cleanest break. We'll
Yeah.
let's leave it there.
Sure.
Okay.
And
That's
so,
speak the word.
And
Hey.
so,
Tell the truth.
yeah, I think you're right. There's a melancholy tinge to it.
Yeah.
Even though
There
I
is.
like
Yeah.
the shirts, I like just physically the way they feel.
Sure.
course.
And it's just black shirt, white logo, all of that. But yeah, and
Well-
that takes some pretty brutal self-examination.
Well, it does, and here's the honest truth. There are a few that
like
want
it.
to go there because it requires them to be to have an emotional intelligence,
Exactly.
to be emotionally and spiritually aware. And here's the thing: most of us are comfortable with being a little stuck in the past because it's what we
Mhm.
know.
It's, yes.
And so we're kind of inching up to something I wanted to talk about, which is both change and trust. Because to
Mm-hmm.
do any of this cleaning out we're talking about requires an enormous amount of trust.
Yes.
In terms of how will the universe support my next steps.
Yes.
So I think we would be remiss if we didn't say this is difficult work. Like you're
Yes.
saying, it's emotional, it's soul work. It really requires some intensive may not be the right word, but just conscious effort on all of our parts. When we go to
Yeah,
that.
it's just easier just to
Sure, just easier.
Nope, I just don't want to worry about that anymore.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'll move on, and then the next day. But it's even if you don't consciously, I believe, even if I'm not consciously thinking of those T-shirts, and
Sure.
obviously those T-shirts are kind of an avatar for every
Sure,
other things.
exactly.
But it's still it's there. It's this present thing, and it's just easier just to move on and not deal with
Now,
it.
see, but what Alice brought, what I really like, and I just want to remind everybody of it already, is that there is always going to be someone else who is going to be interested in those Memphis shirts. So they're
Exactly.
going to
A gift to the
they're
universe.
the gift to the universe, and
Uh-huh.
as you give, so shall it be given.
Yeah, some of the students in Memphis had donated those shirts to Goodwill, and about 2 years later, I saw one of a T-shirt that I designed
Oh,
that wasn't
wow.
one of mine, but just some random stranger at
Hey.
Taco Bell.
Oh, I love that.
Like, where'd you get that shirt? Oh, I got it at thrift store.
Awesome.
How do you like it? That would have been my
I
next
think that's a
question.
great moment. I love
So
that.
so you see, it's
yeah.
it's transferred to energy, and this is what we're talking
Yeah, and
about.
I know all that, and
Sure,
that's the thing. We
yeah, the
all
logic.
know all this. This is
Right.
But
just-
now preparing the mind to get
Well,
rid of this,
making
stuff.
it into an
Yeah. Making
actionable
it.
item.
Yes.
And that's the most important part: making it into an action, turning it into a reality.
We'll return to the program in just 30 seconds, but first, we wanted to give a special word of thanks to our podcast partner, CCU Orlando, who has helped make this episode of the Authentic Spiritual Journey possible. Christ Church Unity is a welcoming community dedicated to transforming lives, celebrating diversity, and supporting soul growth. CCU Orlando is located at 771 Holden Avenue in Orlando, Florida, with Sunday services at 9 and 11 a.m. You can stream services live online as well as learn more at christchurchunity.net. And now we return you to this week's episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey.
Here's the thing that most of us forget, and myself included, by the way, that we
don't
are.
think you're no different.
Well, yeah, we are the activators of God's good, meaning that
Amen.
God cannot flow good in while we're holding on to old. Right? It's very, very, it's like spirit has to sneak it in when we're not looking, when we're not being conscious in release. And so, all the physical stuff we're talking about, and again, we're talking about closets because that's something we can all relate to and all have. But there are even items in your home, and I'm especially talking to ladies here. Ladies, you have old engagement rings still in those, still in your jewelry box, because that was a relationship that you thought was going to be the end all be all, and it never happened, and you're still holding on to it, and so you can't move forward into new relationship because you're holding on to old relationship energy.
Oh Lord.
Sorry, ladies.
Okay.
I'm gonna hide behind this microphone right now.
You know what they say? If you can't say amen, say oh my.
Oh, I don't know that. I love that. Oh my, bless our heart.
Okay. Oh my Lord. So but the thing is you're right. You are so right, and then you wonder, well, why am I not getting into this relationship?
Exactly.
Why is it not coming to me? What's wrong with me? And there's nothing wrong with the individual. It's the
Right. It's
energy
the energy.
around it.
Right. And so that's
Ooh.
how powerful we are as we hold on to these things. We are sending a message out
To the universe.
To the universe.
Yes.
It goes, I can just like see it, I think of it as how
a
sound
vibration.
travels. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
how sound travels. It's a vibration.
Mhm.
And as we, hold on to this, we say, okay, universe, what I want is relationships that don't work because I'm holding on to this.
Because I'm holding on
To this energy,
Mm.
right? And again, it's trust to release it. And I'm not saying you have to give away a diamond ring. Go to your local jeweler and see what you can get for it. Transform the
Yeah,
energy.
if he
Create
doesn't ask
some-
for a bag,
Yeah, right,
No,
exactly.
Create something new in
Create
it. Put it
something
in
new in it.
Put it in another thing.
Sell
Put-
it and get yourself a ring you want made.
Exactly.
It's
Powerful.
transforming the
It's
energy is what's
transferring the
important.
energy. Because it's back to what I always hear again, that energy never dies. It's
Yeah.
only transferred.
Only transformed, yes. Yes,
Mm.
exactly.
So here it is with the cleaning out. So it is with cleaning out the closet.
Yeah, and
Ah,
one other thing, and I do go into
perfect.
detail in this in my book, Seven Spiritual Laws of Release. I have a whole chapter on this very thing. Again, it's Seven Spiritual Laws of Release, and you can go to ChristChurchUnity.net and contact Dove's Nest Bookstore to get a copy of that, or on Amazon.com as well.
And
I'd
we'll have links to all that in their show notes.
Yeah, right. But I do want to mention it because we haven't talked about it yet, and it's an even deeper aspect of the physical. And so, kind of buckle your seatbelt for this one because this is going to be the hardest thing to think about, and will move us really well into finance, which is there may be things you're holding on to that are even good that you're supposed to release to the universe.
Mm.
There may be things that you like that you're supposed to release to the universe because, believe it or not, things have energy. And as you develop your intuitive sense, which we just simply call listening to your soul, but it's really working with your intuition and listening to the intuition, you can begin to dialogue literally with physical things around you and see where they want to go. Because believe it or not, the life force in that particular item has desire. It's not just in you because you're a person. This microphone I'm speaking into right now has an energy, and thank goodness it wants to stay here because I'm using it. But there are things in your home, and I have gone through this process
Yes.
in various areas in my home, and it is a huge risk because you have to be willing to trust the voice inside
Yes.
more than your egoic "I want."
Yes.
And this is huge.
Yes. It has to go. I feel you on that because it has to go beyond the thought of I'm attached to this.
Yes, it's
Uh,
huge.
Yeah,
ooh.
especially if that thing is security like type of a thing.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, one of
Brings
the
you
things I'm
comfort
really
or-
bad about is boxes.
Uh-huh.
I know it's totally weird, but I hoard boxes. I'm not going to
Hey.
open. Before you guys came over here for the session
Oh, no.
today, I don't know if you noticed, it's significantly
Dave is being
Looks
vulnerable.
good, Dave.
right. I'm being
We
vulnerable
love
here,
you.
We
guys.
love you for that.
And
Straight white man being
and-
vulnerable.
Hey,
Alert,
don't get
alert.
that.
Big
Straight
bald
white man,
with beard.
big, bald, with a beard. Straight man being vulnerable.
And
Love
yeah, and I'm just there's this. It's occupying this space. I don't necessarily need it, but it's something that serves a purpose. I don't know what that represents. I can use boxes, and I think, hey, maybe I'll use this again sometime. You know, and who's going to
Right.
use an old Amazon
You
box
know,
or
do
something?
you know
But
you just probably opened up for a lot of people to really those who are listening. I'm telling you.
we have a couch here. I'll lay down on the couch for you.
Yes.
But if it's something that you're using or it's something that is of value to you, you know, and I think that's all. It's one thing for it to be in the corner of a closet and you don't need it. You either can't fit or it represents this other thing. But how do you move past? Hey, I like this thing and I use this thing, but I feel like I should probably release that thing.
This is just what Alice was just talking about. It's like there's probably some things that you really love. And what came to me because it was so I don't know. God, thank you. What came to me last night, I'm serious.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I know I have this recording tomorrow. And I'm like, and so I was listening to spirits. I pulled out my little, dusted off my little Bible. It's so dusty. And
Your Bible.
Little moth flies out.
yeah, I'm telling you, and it's
Ruh-roh.
full of notes and papers and stuff like that, right?
Oh, yeah.
But I came to the story of when it's in the Old Testament,
In the Hebrew Bible.
Hebrew Bible, and we all know that a little bit at least. So, and it came to the story of when Abraham would sacrifice his son.
Oh, yes. That's a crazy scripture.
But I see sometimes how it is, like you said, that it has to be about trust. Going back to that, that it's always about trusting the universe, that the universe is leading you to always working in your favor and doing the right thing.
Yes. Can I speak to that particular verse too? Just real quick.
Go ahead.
I had a friend. His first name was Larry. I think his last name was Schwartz. So don't hold me to that. But he studied that scripture in depth, and he shared some of the learnings. And he kept saying, "Why would God tell
Abraham.
Abraham to sacrifice his son. What kind of God does this?
Right.
And he was not willing to let it go. And he went to rabbis. He was, studying the exegesis of the scripture and all of that.
Mhm.
And he finally found that voice that Abraham heard wasn't the voice of God. It was the voice of what we like to call ego.
Ego.
Okay, so that's what he thought he was supposed to do. Now,
Right.
they call that that stinking thinking.
Yes.
We
and
have
I
to be
truly-
careful about
I
what
under-
we think.
I understand. You
Okay.
know what? I totally understand it. I
It's like,
get it.
what?
I get it. But even this is to show you that even sometimes, like you said, that sometimes
Yeah.
the things that we love so much and then our ego working,
Yes.
we think working against us, but sometimes working
Yes.
with us to actually show us
Mhm.
how the universe will always show up when we are doing this, what we call difficult
Yes.
work
Yes.
of cleaning the closets.
Right.
Right? Because I'm sure even Abraham at that time had some stuff that he was dealing with.
Right.
You know
I
what
mean,
I'm
he
saying?
thought that
And
was what he was being guided to do.
cleaning out spiritually.
Yes.
Mm.
And we do probably need to move on to that.
That
So
was getting us into the spiritual
you done
part.
good.
I was just
You're moving me
transitioning.
forward.
Yeah.
All right. Well, and so maybe we'll do that next and just come back to financial because it just feels like where we're going. Because what we're saying, all of this is an emotional, spiritual process.
Yes.
So it's not like there's physical work and then there's emotional work and then there's financial. They're all emotional and spiritual, as you said, Dave. Because and as we've all said in some form or another, that there is there's emotion, there's feeling. We called it sentiment or memory or whatever.
Memory, yes.
There is emotion related, and this is where it becomes important to realize that we are not just people; we are souls.
Yes.
And so, what this work is the work of the emotional level, the work of the soul is all the same thing. That the word psyche actually means soul. And so when we're thinking about our emotions and what we feel we're wanting to do, we need to listen very carefully to the intuitive aspect,
Yes.
of who we are.
Definitely.
Yes, and the emotions don't dictate what we do. As a matter of fact, emotions often show our area of wounding. So emotions are windows into the soul.
Mhm.
I may be mad about something, but it doesn't mean I have to act on the mad. I could be sad about something. It doesn't mean I act on the sad. It means that is touching something in my experience and that now this is information that I consider in my soul journey.
Mhm.
So the emotional aspect of this cleaning out is a huge aspect. And as much as we hear now in our culture about how do you feel and how do you feel,
Mhm. Right.
feelings are important,
Yes.
but they are not to dictate every behavior. They are to look at where am I reacting? What is this showing me? So
It's a guidance system.
it is.
It's like a guidance system.
Absolutely.
It just shows me, okay, well, where am I headed?
Yes.
Where am I headed with this? Where could this take me?
Yes.
Where could this take me? If I have this, okay, I have this fear or this anger about something because it brings up a memory.
Yes. Exactly.
Because all the memories of things are
That
not
ever
going to be good.
That's right. And every memory of everything that's ever happened is stored in your cells.
Exactly.
It's in your DNA.
So we always
Yeah.
so like you said, to know your guidance system, to know that what is this guiding me, and then to reevaluate
Absolutely.
yourself and why am I holding on to this? Why is this happening? So that's changing that energy, transferring that
Yes.
energy spiritually of cleaning out the spiritual closet.
Yes,
I like
and
that.
yes, and you may even find that some of what you're learning about yourself emotionally is in conflict with your spiritual beliefs.
Mhm.
So then that's another choice for you to make.
We talking about the BS now?
Well,
The belief system?
uh-huh. Well, that's
Oh,
all we're
Lord.
ever talking about, right? I mean, it's always
Hey.
back to that.
It's the authentic spiritual journey, baby.
Right. And so some of us find ourselves moving forward spiritually and stuck in old dogmas.
Mm.
And sometimes it's just because it's what we know and that's what is in our mind.
Mhm.
It's not what we really believe. So all of these things we're speaking of intersect at the level of the soul, the
Mm.
emotional, the spiritual, and what do we say our beliefs are, and yet what is our experience telling us?
Mhm.
And sometimes those are two different things. So
Mhm.
the authentic spiritual journey is having real discussions about that.
Okay. And sometimes even having those discussions within yourself.
Hello.
Within yourself. And I think even more important, within yourself.
Exactly. More important.
Okay,
Yes, that's
more
the most
important. I
yeah.
mean, I really need to think about, like, if I have these intuitions and these feelings,
Right.
then I need to figure out, like, ask
What are
my
they telling
soul,
me?
like, what is it saying? What am I supposed to do? This is where you go into the prayer mode. People always say prayer. But I think prayer is good. Prayer is definitely good, number one.
Yeah.
But it's also in a time of a moment where you get quiet
Yes.
and listen.
There's going to have to be times of quiet where you listen, where you journal what you're feeling so that you're not acting out of your
Exactly.
emotions, but
Exactly.
you're able to get some room and objectivity and clarity. And it's wonderful to have spiritual statements to help us get through those times. Sometimes there's affirmations we need to use. Sometimes there's centering things we need to do. So yes, we do start with prayer, but we don't end there.
Exactly.
Right.
It's always moving into the time of, okay,
Right.
now let me be quiet and listen.
Right.
See, that's the whole thing. We're always having this one-way conversation. That's not communication.
Right.
So I do. And you know what? I'm a little guilty of that, but we're all right. And I'm moving forward past it, right?
That's right.
Okay. So the thing is, I am. But now the thing is when you're going through that moment, it's like, okay, now you wanna make sure that you're being honest.
Yes.
Like we said, clarity. And when I
Yes.
think about clarity, I'm definitely thinking about how you're cleaning out stuff, but now we're cleaning out spiritually. Because when I'm cleaning out my physical closet, I want clarity. I want to
Absolutely.
see the bottom of my closet. I want to be able to utilize this closet.
That's
So when
right.
I'm doing the spiritual clarity or becoming more spiritually clear,
That's right.
I want to be able to use
There you go.
my soul more.
Yes.
Ooh.
That was good. Well, all of this is about getting more in touch with your soul, what your soul
Amen.
is saying, and letting your soul lead. We don't want the ego to lead. The mind is always
Amen.
trying to lead, but the mind can only see so far.
Yes.
And it usually sees I will say always. Your mind is limited. Your soul is eternal.
Your soul is eternal.
And so when your mind
I
is
like
only
that.
saying, okay, this is a situation we have to deal with right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And which might be true that it has to be dealt with. But we want the soul then to inform the actions, because if we're just operating on the level of the mind, the actions
Ooh.
are only going to be based in third dimensional reality, which is the relative realm of consciousness.
Ooh.
All right. And the soul is based in what I like to call, and I borrow this from Charles Fillmore, is fourth dimension consciousness. Some people call it Christ consciousness. But you could
Absolute.
call it the Buddha consciousness. In other words, what is God consciousness? You could even call it your highest spiritual self. What is the highest
Yes.
spiritual idea that's wanting to come through? And your mind is saying, solve the problem. And your soul is there saying, but there is a higher spiritual idea trying to come through. And so that's what the listening is about, is to hear the soul and not just be, reacting from the level of the mind. The mind just reacts and tries to solve the problem. And the soul saying, what bigger thing is happening right
It's
now?
happening right now.
Yeah.
Exactly. I like that. And that is spiritually cleaning out the closet.
Yes. So
Which
the
is-
new can come forth.
So the new can come forth. Amen. I like that. Oh my God.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's
that's some
good.
good stuff. I'm telling you, I think well, I know I do. I get more out of this though, probably than the listeners will.
Bless you for listening, is what we're saying.
I'm trying to tell you. I hope that you can understand and just stay tuned. It's like it's going to get better more and more as we go. It's going to continue to grow.
We are developing this series as we go because we are authentic souls on our authentic journey. It's that simple, that we have not sat down and said, okay, this is the next 24 shows and this is what they're going to be about. What we have done is we've decided a few shows and themes based on our personal experience with these things in our lives.
I love
So
it.
we didn't read this in a book somewhere and we're bringing it to you.
No.
You are going to hear continually as we learn and grow. You're going to learn and grow with us because we're
Amen.
taking you on the journey, on our soul's journey. And so speaking of that, we do have one last topic we want to be about, which today, which I can't believe we're almost out of time because we could do this for hours, is part of the,
Financial.
is look at the financial aspect. Yeah. Did you want to say something about that?
No, I'm
No?
gonna let you lead that one.
Well,
I do have something to say
Go
about
for it.
Let me go ahead.
come on, just go
I'm telling you.
ahead.
Well, when I figure out cleaning out financially my financial closet. Oh, boy.
Financial. I love that.
Yeah, financial.
Yeah, I like that.
Closet, what
Spiritual
that-
and financial. Let's make a new word.
Spiritual and financial. Okay. hey, look, I'm telling you, I am African American. If you don't know,
Yeah.
But I'm loved for that. Thank you. But no, seriously, we're dealing with the money and cleaning it out.
Gosh, deal with the money.
Lord, the bills, the credit. Here it is. I had to
Here
really
it is. Say it like, say it again. Here it
Here
is.
it is. I had to really, really let go because I had some
Yeah.
things that I had planned, and I had this new life, and life came like because of me, dealing with recovery and all of that, right?
Sure.
And coming from a place where I really didn't have any kind of financial stability.
Yes. Say say a little more about that because you have such a powerful recovery journey. I was really hoping you'd share, and I think this is a great jumping off point. It's
Yeah.
powerful for people to hear
It
where you
really
were
is.
and where you are.
Yes.
Because it
And the
inspires
journey
me.
coming through that.
Exactly. Yeah.
recovering, and then having to deal with now becoming financially responsible.
Yes.
Woo! This is the financial
This is
cleaning
huge.
of the closet now.
Yes. This is huge.
Because I really had to, because first when I got it, I was like, ooh, get everything. Mine.
Normal to do. Yeah. Yeah.
Because it was like it was deprived from me for so long, I felt.
Yes.
So I wanted
Yes.
all of it.
Oh yeah, that's why I ate sweetened cereal as a grown person.
Exactly.
Yeah,
because
it's like
it was
I could never get Fruity Pebbles as a kid.
Exactly.
Then when I was like, I got my own place, I'm gonna eat all the Captain
All the
Crunch,
Fruity
all
Pebbles.
of it.
All the
It's
fruity
the
See?
same
Pebbles.
way.
So that's the same way with the financial too.
Yep, absolutely.
And I know
Totally,
I'm not
totally.
the only
Not
one.
the only one,
Because
that's right.
we get kind of material led. I don't know.
Materialistic.
Materialistic.
Yeah, totally.
Led. Driven.
Totally material driven. Our whole culture is material driven.
Material driven. And coming out of that, knowing that, hey, I need to be more responsible, that I don't need all of this stuff. I don't need the credit cards. I don't need all that.
Right.
And I had
right.
to learn that lesson. I had to really
Huge.
cut them up.
Huge.
That took a lot. I had to cut them
Talk
up
about trust.
and
Oh my gosh.
and still make payments. Okay.
And you're not getting anything.
And I'm not getting nothing.
I
But
know,
that's what
tough.
but this is what they told me that would help me to move forward. Doing something for myself, that cutting up the credit cards
Yeah.
and then making the payments, getting nothing out of it.
Well,
But getting more from it than what I even can see.
yes. Plus, you already have the stuff that you already bought, so it's
And-
not
and
like
like-
you didn't get. It's
well,
not like you
unless
got
you're
nothing.
like us, we got into so much credit card debt just going out to eat.
Oh, it's easy to
Well,
do.
I guess it's still with me.
That's right. Ben and Jerry.
Yeah,
is what I
right.
do. Yeah, right. Right. So yeah, the financial stuff is huge because our culture is so
Really.
run by
Material.
who has
Yeah,
who's-
who has the most,
who
who's
has the
best
most
car,
money.
biggest house.
Yeah, the car, the house, whatever. And what has happened is that our value is based on what we own, not who we are.
Wow.
And there's a I don't know. There's one of my favorite musicals is the musical Rent by Rent Rent by Jonathan Larson, and there's a song in there about it was 20th century when that was written, and basically the song says you are what you own, and that's the culture we are in terms of the predominant idea of the culture is you are what you own. So to think that any of us in this room and any of our listeners would be completely separate of that is not even logical. We grew up in that culture, and we're learning how to still maintain a certain level of living
Hmm.
that supports ourselves and the people we love and even the community without getting caught up in this is all I am about, and this is and that
Exactly.
I am what I own, that I'm worth more if I have a larger house and in a 3-car garage
Exactly.
than if I live in the projects and I'm collecting welfare. When the fact is, to God, those two individuals would be exactly the same.
Hmm.
So in the finances, it's both looking at our spending for sure. Where
Definitely.
is our money going?
Right.
Are we in debt? And we'll probably do a whole show on that. But then you know when I am spending, where is that going? It's
Where's
really
that going?
all about becoming conscious, and if we're not also in some way giving 10% off the top to the universe, wherever that you feel that's important,
Wherever you are spiritually fed,
the universe gets its 10%. I can tell you that
one way or another.
from experience.
Me too.
So is to move into more of a discipline of and any good financial advisor, by the way, will tell you this. You give 10% to God, 10% to yourself, and then you pay everybody else. But it's
Okay.
10% to God, 10% to yourself, and then you pay everybody else. And if you're not doing that, then you might want to look at that, because again, our money is here to serve us, not us serve our money. And so what happens when we get into debt is we are then in service to
In
the credit
service
card
to the
to the credit card company
Mhm.
instead of what our needs, wants, desires, purposes. Money is wonderful and can help us get the things we need. Again, it can help our family members. It can help those in the community. But if we're not being conscious of where our money is going, then we're not truly living our purpose in the financial life.
That's
And
right.
before I forget to say this, because we're wrapping up, all of these things I'm saying, the physical life, these
The
spiritual and emotional,
and the financial.
and the financial, these are all relating to living our purpose in the world so our lives can bloom. This is not I'm supposed to be happy living without.
No.
This is
No.
I'm happy because I'm on purpose and none of these things
Yes.
are getting in my way. So
Right.
this is just something for you to think about and consider as you go through life every day. Tomorrow when you get ready for work, you can look in your closet and go, "Oh my gosh, I never thought about all this stuff." We want to just help you become more conscious of your process.
Yeah, and it could be one thing at a time.
Absolutely.
It can be
for sure.
This week I'm going to get rid of one shirt. As a matter of fact,
One
I'll
shirt.
commit to that. This week I'm going to get rid of
One
one
shirt.
shirt. I'm just going to drop it off to Goodwill. You don't need to give me a receipt in it. Just
Yeah, I'm
here-
good to
here
go.
it is.
Just here you go. Because it starts the energy
That's
moving.
right. That's right.
I'd say just drop it off the Alice house.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
wear. Yeah, I want one.
I
Just
don't
give it
think
to
you-
me.
Okay.
I don't think you
That
wear
could
a
be the first
3X.
one. Well, she could sleep in it.
Yeah.
That's right.
Who
That
knows?
might be TMI, but that's okay.
Well,
You know, one of the-
I was
don't
thinking
know.
it. I was thinking it.
The-
I know
was
you
thinking it.
was.
Circling back to the financial
Sure,
work, I just want to
sure.
share a quick story. For me and Shannon, we found ourselves just kind of just running from debt. We
Yeah.
just kept we were horrible with credit cards, and on some level, I want to say it's not our fault because we're 18, 19 years old.
Sure,
and
I
they're
mean-
literally there. Here's your beer cozy and your free credit card. Go destroy your debt, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
When you're in
Go
college,
destroy
they
your
just-
credit score.
They just throw them at you.
Oh,
They
And so
do.
we were really terrible about it.
Okay.
And we just we didn't pay our student loans. We just kept
Ooh.
running from it.
It's like, yeah, we'll just
Until-
You talking to
pretending it
me.
isn't there.
until
You talking to
until
me.
it was like we want to buy a house. Let's be grown ups. We want to buy a house.
Let's be
And talk about
responsible.
cleaning out your closets. We had to do that, and that was
See?
it was painful. It was
Yeah.
It was we had to be really honest with ourselves. We had to cut back on a lot of things,
Mhm.
but running from that debt never felt as good as owning
up
it
to it
and saying and
Mhm.
now I know when the phone rings, I'll answer the phone even though if it's I don't
You don't
get
worry
that
about
little pit
that
in
little
your
gut,
stomach.
yeah.
When you check the mail, and
Right.
that feels good.
Yeah.
There's release in
You
that.
talking
There
about
is.
you talking about some real authentic
Yeah.
stuff.
I mean,
there.
we would never answer the phone. We would just because bill collectors and everything.
Oh,
and-
sure.
And
Yeah.
just like walking in and seeing a shirt with bad energy, just the phone calls and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And
Right,
it was
right.
it was a real big deal. And getting the house, because at some point that flipped.
Yeah,
Us
right.
wanting to have a house was more important,
Important,
than
yes.
us dodging our debt for 10 years.
Yes.
12 years,
Mhm.
like
Yes.
almost defaulting on our student loans and everything. And
Well, and what it takes,
See.
which even sets up our next show, is coming out of denial.
yeah.
Yes.
And that's huge. That's huge,
Waking
huge.
up.
And that's major soul growth stuff. I mean,
That
if
is.
if all your work around release was only around finances, sometimes we think, oh, we have to be spiritual and meditate 12 hours a day. When in
No.
fact, that work that you guys were doing, I believe,
Very.
is hugely spiritual and a huge step forward in growth, because it's like,
Yes.
okay, I'm growing up financially. I am
Yes.
responsible. I am, giving
I'm
to
ready
God
to
what's
move
God's.
forward.
I'm ready to move forward.
And, yeah, and it changed my relationship with how I just thought about like
Yes.
the person on the other end of the line.
For sure.
And there are programs in place.
Right.
These
Yes.
people want to help me. The student loan industry that's a whole other thing. But
Yeah.
they're not like bad people.
No.
Right.
No.
You know,
Right.
it's just a person on the other just doing their job. They want to help us out. And so we were able to do that and buy this little dinky house, and it really kind of set us on a trajectory
On a new-
towards
yeah.
Towards what
much
you-
more secure financial footing.
So just like you said, if you just do like one little thing, it doesn't have to be really big or really huge. You just do one thing, and then it snowballs.
That's right.
It's like a snowball effect.
In the most positive way.
I love that.
And I do want to put a plug here for an upcoming series I'm doing at Christ Church Unity, because it is all about prosperity in all its
Yes.
forms. And oh no, never
Well,
mind.
by
I
the
just
time
did
this
it. I
airs-
just did it. Never mind. I just did
Yeah.
it last month. But I do have my book on Amazon,
Wait, what?
Prosperity for
This
You.
is live. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, right. But my book, Prosperity for You, is available.
Is
and
available.
Yeah,
So
we'll have
anyway-
a link to that in our show notes. as
yeah. So thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for
Again,
joining
I'm
us,
Cynthia Alice.
Frederick Cotto
well.
Lewis.
And I'm Dave.
So bless you, my friends. We're lifting you up on the journey.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Authentic Spiritual Journey presented by CCU Orlando here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. This episode was also made possible by our supporting patrons Thomas Singer and Nora Miles. If you would like to help be a part of bringing shows like this and other programs to our channel, please consider becoming a supporting patron. For patron information, episode show notes, and details about our other shows on the channel, please head over to experienceofthesoul.com. And if you enjoyed this program, you can help spread the word by leaving 5-star reviews on Apple Podcast, Google Play, Stitcher, or the podcast platform of your choice. The Authentic Spiritual Journey is copyright 2018, Cynthia Alice Anderson, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Shannon Croft and used with permission. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.